To begin with, my name is Yasin. I'm really happy to be leading this program on the Encode side. You can see on your screens, this is my Twitter account. Feel free to follow me and make sure to tag me whenever you have questions. Let me know what you're building. I'm really excited to know what you have prepared and want to see what you will be building for the duration of this hackathon. For those of you that don't know, we are Encode Club. We're a global community of top developers, professionals, and talented students in emerging tech. We do all kinds of programs that concern with Educate series. We do a lot of hackathons that get into accelerators, and we have a lot of boot camps that help all of you refine your skills. And we help a lot on the recruitment side. Our community is over 500,000 both trained from Web 2 and Web 3 developers, and it's growing by the day with programs such as this one. In the current case, we're doing a Fuel Hackathon. It's a 4-week endeavor. It's a hackathon that's built around leveraging Fuel's unique architecture to build impactful dApps. And we're looking forward to seeing you build some such as coin launch platforms, trading protocols, and especially yield aggregators. There's a lot of interesting bounties that have been prepared, but about that in a few minutes. I would like to invite my colleague Omji on stage, who is our head of research and operations, and she will be sharing a few words to all of you that have come here for the launch event. Let me quickly add her on stage.
Hello. Hi, everyone. Jim. It's really great to see you. I'm a little bit in different time zone than usual. I'm visiting Korea for KBW. If any of your hackers are staying in Korea now, please also reach out so we can catch up. First, welcome to the Fuel Hackathon. It's very exciting. I remember that last year, Dev Connect Istanbul, I was visiting talk of Nick, and I was very inspired that Fuel was very interesting, introducing new concepts and so on. And then having a chat with the Fuel team, they're hey, oh my God, we must, create the education program for our developers who are very excited about. And here we are finally making an amazing education series with the opportunity to building a new project. As all of you are very excited about Fuel, yet Sway and all the things are still a little bit unfamiliar. So what we're going to do is we have great experts around who are going to be holding your hands and going through all this process together so that you can get onboarded amazing. So please utilize this chance as much as possible, as this is a great opportunity to learn and build something. And of course, I say this every time in Hackathon launch event at this stage. So some of you who are following a lot of our education program, you may get bored, but please don't let imposter syndrome you down, so that you will not keep building or submit because you think you are not good enough, which is not true. And some of you perhaps saw those finalists who has been building multiple times to fail and build finally great projects. So again, welcome to the hackathon. Welcome to this amazing education initiative. If you just joined the hackathon, I see some also new names. Please check out Fuel Educate, which just finished it weeks ago, so that you can check out all different bits, and then they're going to be a great foundational information to building further. Again, everyone, very excited to see what you're going to build, and please surprise us. And if you need any help, we will be here. Please reach out, and very excited to see.
Thank you, Omji. Thank you for the nice words. And yes, everyone, make sure to make the most out of the Fuel Educate materials that have been made available. And now I would like to add on stage David Michal, so he can share a few words from the Fuel website. David, you should be seeing it pop on your end.
All good. Cool. Hey, everybody. Thank you guys for joining. It's great to be talking to you guys. Yeah, I just wanted to give kind of a couple words about Fuel and about the hackathon before we kind of kick things off. So I think this is a really exciting time for Fuel in general. For anyone who doesn't kind of know the background, Fuel is one of the earliest projects to take on the task of scaling Ethereum, of finding how to address kind of the issues that were plaguing Ethereum at the time. And Fuel is a project that took a very different approach, wanted to really deviate from where a lot of the other projects at that time were going, wanted to introduce a lot of new concepts, a lot of new ways of developing. And that's led to a very long road, a lot of different things that needed to be developed. And we're finally at a spot where things are kind of all coming together as Fuel approaches its mainnet launch which is coming up quite shortly, which I think is a particularly great time for developers like yourselves to get involved, to be building on building on top of a platform that is kind of approaching stability, building at a time when, I imagine by the time you guys are finishing up your code, you'll be at the point when it can kind of launch on mainnet and be available to real users like quite quickly. Yeah, awesome time for Fuel, and I'm glad you guys are joining us and going to be learning more about the Fuel ecosystem. So best of luck to you guys.
Fantastic. Thank you for the amazing words, David. And yeah, as David mentioned, it's the perfect time to get building. And speaking of building, there's a lot of interesting bounties and prizes that we want to go through. Let me quickly get Harry on stage, who will be showcasing everything that we have in store for this hackathon and all the amazing prizes that you will be able to compete for. Harry, you should be seeing an invite on your end. Hello, and welcome on stage.
Hey guys.
Hey.
Yeah, the prizes that we have for the Fuel Hackathon is an open track. And what that means is that you're allowed to build anything on Fuel, but extra points will be awarded to projects that draw inspiration from the projects such as Pump.Fun, Pendle Finance, Notional Finance, Beefy Finance, and Yearn.fi, just because these are the projects that we are looking for people to build on Fuel. And of course, anyone with a unique use of predicates will get awarded with extra prize points. And we're looking for special uses of our tech stack in the form of like the TypeScript SDK, Rust SDK, and of course, Sway. And what I'm really excited about is the opportunity to receive a grant funding. So if we really like the project that you're building, we're going to give you the opportunity to continue building this project in the form of a grant. Up to $15,000 is up for grabs for that. And regarding the submission guidelines, you must have a product with a working front end, and your code must be open source, and just some brief documentation on the overall project.
Perfect. Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you want to say something? Sorry.
No, that's all I had. I'm really excited to see what everyone else builds.
Yes, an open track means pretty much everyone can let their imagination run loose. There's a lot of, as Harry mentioned out, a lot of interesting protocols you can take inspiration from, a lot of interesting products that you can get inspired by and hopefully compete for some of the great prizes that you see on screen. For the duration of the hackathon, feel free to reach out if you're having any questions, both technical or non-technical. Both myself and the rest of our team will be happy to help you out. Just to cover some of the frequently asked questions when it comes to hackathon. Usually these are the questions that we receive the most, so this is why we take the opportunity to cover them on stage live. It's like, who can take part? Pretty much everyone. So for those of you that are coming in from the Educate series, this is the perfect program for you. For those of you that did not participate in the Educate series, but you've heard about the hackathon, feel free to reach out. Feel free to go back to the Educate series, watch some of the recordings. Everything is public and available for everyone, and then make sure to put your skills to the test. Regarding where you can find the most important details for the program, you can find those in the Hacker Pack. The Hacker Pack should have been emailed to you upon entry of the program, and it will be shared multiple times on our Discord. We'll make sure to share all of these, as well as proper links to all the specific small bits of info that you might need in order to submit a project at the end of this program. In regards to what you can use, a lot of teams are coming up with the question, well, I've worked on something previously which is not truly a fully fledged product, but it is something that I've been working on. Can I use this in this hackathon? Yes, you are. So we are allowing the use of projects you've previously worked on, but we want to see these projects completed by the end of the program. We want to see enough proof that you've worked on and have improved these projects for the 4 weeks of this hackathon. Do you need a team? If it was up to us, we would advise yes, because everything's easier when you have like-minded people to support you and support each other during this program, during the tough times of like technical difficulties. And it's always much better to work with someone that can give you a shoulder to support. It's not something that you need to do. You are free to work on your own and be a lone wolf. But again, we do advise you all to find a team. If you don't have a team but you want to find one, feel free to share a bit in the Discord channel. We have dedicated team formation channels. You will be able to share what your profile is, tell us more about what what are the skill sets that you possess, what are the skill sets that you're lacking, and with that information, others will be able to reach out to you, and you will be able to reach out to people that you find interesting to work with. So hopefully you can use the next few days to say a bit more about yourself and find somebody else to work with. As always, what is the best place to organize? It's always the Discord. We will make sure to post all of all the important announcements on our Discord. Those of you that have been part of the Educate series already know about the announcement channel. They've all been grouped out as Fuel programs, so you will see a lot of the hackathon announcements follow up in the same channel. As for technical support, that's one of the biggest questions that we receive for these hackathons. Yes, you can rely on us for technical support. We will make sure to connect you with representatives from the Fuel team who will be then giving you guidance on how to proceed. To move on, we have a lot of workshops planned for you. We're starting off with one immediately after this launch. It's going to be on building a front end for your NFT collection on Fuel. It's going to start in a few minutes. But we're going to have another on Wednesday. It's going to be an airdrop token with Sway. And we're going to have a couple more planned for next week on how to index data on Fuel, and then TypeScript and Rust SDK live coding with office hours. So ideally, by that point, for the very last workshop, you should already have something in your mind, an idea to develop, and you can come on with different questions that you can ask directly and get direct feedback from the Fuel team. A few important dates that we would like you all to keep in mind. These are all the key dates and associated deadlines for this program. First one being the idea submission deadline. It comes midway through the hackathon. It's roughly in 2 weeks. This is going to be a small form that you will have to fill out and tell us about what you plan on building. So use the first 2 weeks to ideate, use the first 2 weeks to find people to work with, enjoy the workshops that have been prepared, and find a great idea that you would like to develop. Submit the idea form. We really want to know what you plan on building, because this gives us an idea of what kind of support you might be in need of, and we will then make sure to provide you that support for the 3rd and 4th week, which is going to be the building phase of this hackathon. The project submission deadline comes on the 29th of September. This is the end of the 4th week of the hackathon, and it is when we will be expecting the fully fledged products or projects that you have been developing for the duration of the month. Once these submissions are in, we will then collect all the needed information and provide it to the Fuel team, who will then select finalists. These 10 finalists, ideally 10, but the number can vary, so don't quote me on that one. These finalists will work really close with our team, myself and some of my colleagues, through various pitch practices that will help you prepare for the hackathon finale, which is going to be the grand event, at the end of this program. It's going to happen on Wednesday 16th, and it is when we're going to hear the final live pitches and where all the prizes will be announced. Again, if there's any changes for any of the dates that you're seeing on your screens, we'll make sure that these will be communicated through our announcement channels on Discord. For next steps, make sure to join our Discord. If you have not done so already, make sure to find some teammates to work with. Feel free to use the chat section in all of our workshops. Say hi, step out of your comfort zone, and hopefully you'll find someone to work with. Do make sure to participate in the workshops. That means come in, research what the topics are going to be, come in with questions prepared, see whether these workshops align with what you're planning to build, and hopefully they will provide you a lot of value. At the end of the 2nd week, be sure to submit your idea. It's going to help us, as I said, to know what you're going to be working on and to provide you with all the support you need to convert this idea into a full project. And hopefully that will happen by the end of the month, and we will be celebrating your submissions at the end of this month when we're going to have the submission deadline. That is all from me for now. If you have any questions, make sure to send. I actually see a question as we speak. Feel free to post them in chat or in question. Hello, please tell about topics, which topics we should use for exact project idea. Is it free to select any idea? So as Harry said from the Fuel team, there is an open track. So you're free to work on anything that uses the Fuel tech stack, but there are specific ideas which will get bonus points in terms of ranking. Details you can find in the Hacker Pack. We've given several examples of things that the Fuel team would like to see built, and hopefully these will be very useful to you. Again, if you have any questions, please make sure to sound them off in the chat section or in the question section, and we will now move on to the very first workshop of the series, which is going to be building a front end for your NFT collection. I will add our very first speaker. It's going to be Laisha from the Fuel team, who will be leading this workshop.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Thanks for the introduction, and I'm glad to kick this off right after the launch and everything. I think we can get started. I'll just share my screen and out what we'll be covering within this session. And we'll try to cover most time for the Q&A at the, but if you have, you can reach out to the team through multiple channels and we'll be happy to help at any time.
Lovely. And as always, if anybody has any questions for the workshop as well, please make sure to post them in the chat section or in the questions zone, and Laisha will address them at the end.
Perfect. So we did a workshop during the Educate series where we had discussed more around how you can build an NFT contract using Sway. And this is a follow-up on that workshop, building upon that knowledge to understand how you can build an interactive front end. So we'll do a quick recap in 5 minutes to understand what are we dealing with today and how the concept of NFTs are slightly different from what you've been used to seeing in the EVM space. Good morning again for all of those who are joining from different parts of the world. I'll skip this. A couple of basics which are important for us while we are implementing the front end is to understand that what are the different components that are available. While we know that Fuel is the main architecture we are building on, there are different aspects to it. We'll be working with the Sepolia testnet, and the contract that we'll be utilizing is written in Sway, which is a DSL, Rust-like smart contract programming language. Then we have 3 different things. First is fork, which is nothing but it's an all-in-one toolchain. So if you're familiar with NPM or Cargo in Rust, it's synonymous to that. And basically fork is what helps us manage everything, whether it's the toolchain, whether it's the project, whether it's the structure. Now, that's more about the contract and making sure that your Sway programs are compiled and built correctly. But when it comes to interacting with blockchain and using those smart contracts to read and write data off the chain is where Fuels come in. So Fuels is the SDKs that help us develop on top of those contracts and connect. There is a TypeScript SDK and there is a Rust SDK that is available. And a FuelUp is essentially the toolchain manager. So how we have NVM for Node, this FuelUp is similar to that. So it's used for managing versioning, dependencies, and making sure everything's compatible. Now, to give you a little bit of context for those who are joining for the first time, compared to EVM, Fuels is slightly different. We have our own language, which is Sway, and we also have our own version of the VM called Fuel VM. And what's also important for us to understand today is that similar to how you have Web3.js, Ethers.js, and the likes of those libraries available, we're going to be utilizing the TypeScript SDK and the Wallet SDK and a bunch of other React supporting libraries that are available for us to make the job of integration much more easier. Now, if we look at it, if you're implementing NFTs in any EVM-based language, you would probably go to OpenZeppelin, pick up the template in terms of the basic functions that definitely should be there in your contract, and then build upon a specific use case you have. Similar to that, Sway also has certain standards. Because in Sway, every asset is a native asset. So you essentially do not need to have, you do not need to actually implement transfer functions or proof functions within your contract. These are basically calls that happen at the compile level. And that's one major difference. Second, different people can have different approaches towards implementation. So that's why Sway standards are there. So basically, these help you in understanding what should definitely be there within your NFT contract. And again, you do feel there are more things that should be part of the base standard. You can always contribute. There's a contributing guide on our website that you can go through and suggest any changes that you would want. But what are the standards that we are going to use or use to build our NFT? The first is SRC20, basically similar to ER20. It's a simple implementation which takes care of the minting and functionality. It uses assets to build on top of it. But specifically for minting and burning of fungible assets, we have SRC3. Assets also come with certain metadata. So we have also built a standard around managing and storing the metadata for these native assets. The other SRC9 is also relevant for the implementation today. SRC6 is more around wallet standards, and SRC13 is around if you're looking to work with predicates or issuing NFTs in specific use cases which are regulated, this might be relevant for you. But coming to what are we using for our NFT use case is SRC20, because we want basically NFT is nothing but SRC20 with its supply of just one, right? So that is what we build upon. And we use the SRC7 to store all metadata that is associated with NFT, and minting and burning again is SRC3. And you can refer to the code base over here, which will also be shared in other guides that you'll receive. So let's get started. I think I'll have to share a different app than this one. So let me do that. Okay. So to start with, since NFT is a slightly complexer contract, and in general, if we start directly with the NFT, it might take us, it can be a little daunting to understand it. But let me give you a little bit of an intro on how the NFT UI looks like. So what happens is when you come to the NFT page, you can either choose to have a temporary wallet or a burner wallet, or you can connect your own wallet. Temporary wallet will give a wallet with basic funds that can help you do exploring NFTs in general. Okay, I'll use this wallet, which I was using in the previous session. And I continue to so I created so far, and I can choose to mint any of them. The option of creating NFT and just looking at all of the NFTs I've created and looking at who is minted or not. Now, when it comes to an NFT, there are three big information that I'm taking, which is the name, the symbol, any description that they have, and an associated file. There's a limit on the size that I've added. This is one of the gym schedules that I have. So I'm going to name it schedule. I'm going to call it VYM, and I don't need to description that. And what essentially is happening in the background, the data is actually uploaded to IPFS. And once that data gets uploaded and the NFT is created is when I will see a confirmation over here. It can take probably a second or so. NFT successfully created. That I should be able to, just a moment. I think gym schedule is actually created. Now, what is happening in the background? In order to understand that, what's important is to first look at the contract and just see the functions really quick. And then let's dive into how the elements work. And then you would have an associated front end. So defined two other files which handles the edges in case of errors and has an interface. I won't be diving into the details. For those of you who need more context, I think there's a recorded thing that covers this in greater detail on how this contract works. But essentially, there's a storage that we have defined, which contains all of the variables or all of the details that we are storing regarding our NFT, which is the name, symbol, metadata. The total supply is basically from the SRC20 standard. Because it's an NFT, it will always be one. And there is a that we've set for the total asset that people can mint using this contract. You can obviously change it based on your application. So it's we have these getter methods. Let me go to the mint and the burn functionality. Now, this is where I am basically just taking up the standards, which is SRC. Where is it? It is SRC20, then there's SRC3, and then there's SRC7, which defines the metadata. And then we actually go to the implementation of our mint and burn functionality. Okay. Mint functionality is pretty simple. What I also want to talk about here when it comes to a difference in how things are, that there is a identifier that is used for minting the assets. Now, this sub identifier is actually derived from the asset ID and the address. And that is basically a unique identification of newly mint asset because it's a native asset. Its function slightly different. Now, what we are trying to do here is that generate an asset ID using my contracts address and the sub ID. Sub ID, you can use a random seed to so that it's unique every time. Is one you want to make sure. What you see here is basically a call to the interface to make sure that this is valid. I am getting the need to met none of, this is just checking that all the asset I needed is not none, and basically call the mint function that is defined in my base. Now, most of us are familiar with writing contracts, but what differs when we're working with different blockchain is how you interact with these contracts. So let's look at a rather simple application first to understand this interaction. We'll come back to the NFT because as you can see, there are multiple components to it. There's an explore page, there's a creation page, and there's a minting page as well. So I have a simple project. You can also refer to this project. You can actually go to the guide section in the Fuel documentation. Within this, there's a counter React app example that you can refer to understand the basics of how to set up a full stack project. What I'm going to do for the first 10 minutes now is basically discuss what are the steps that are involved when you have a contract and you want to use that contract to generate the necessary ABIs that can interact with, create contract instance, and then call the necessary functions of that contract. So to walk you through the steps before we actually start writing the code is you need three basic things. You need to have a Fuel browser wallet, or you can also run a local node and do this operation. You need to have the Fuel's SDK dependency installed. We'll see how we do that. And then the important aspect here is generating the contract types. So this process basically generates the necessary ABI JSON representations. And then once we build the project, their TypeScript descriptions are generated, which is used by the SDK to actually make the function calls. Now let me open this particular project in another tab. What I've done is I've already created the project. So if you look at, let me increase the size of my terminal. There's a counter contract, which basically has my, let me just open it in VS Code. So it's a very simple contract, which has one counter variable whose value I'm incrementing. And then I have a function that is a getter. And then there's a function that increments it and updates the storage on chain. That's a simple method. Now, when I want to first start with the function, start with the creation of my front end, what I'll do is I'll start with creating another front end folder. So you can, I'll walk you through the steps from the documentation, and I'll show you the example by running it in local. So what I've done is I've created a front end folder. Now there are multiple ways you can go about it. For the ease of setup, you can actually initialize a React project using Byte, and then you can also use the templates that we have created. We are coming up with more templates so that it's easier for you to work with different projects. Now, once you create a new project, your directory is probably going to, it's probably going to have only a source folder with one basic HTML and your main TypeScript files and an app.tsx file. What we next is necessary NPM libraries and then set up the Fuels SDK. Now within Fuels, we want the React dependency, and it does help us to interact with wallets and then manage all of the activities on the wallet. React has a lot of components handy when it comes to handling async operations, so creating hooks so that you don't have to implement custom hooks and React queries most of you would be familiar with. Now the important part is you've seen that if I look at counter, once I compile it, there is a deployments folder, there's a debug folder which has actually my ABI. I need to structure this ABI format which my front end can understand. So in order to do that, we actually have the Fuels init command, which generates a config file that my SDK is doing for to generate that. So the first thing I do this again. This is fuel.config.ts, and actually it's a bunch of configurations that is important to understand for the SDK, where the contract is lying and where the command is. That's it. So essentially what the command does is that it has a flag which asks me to provide the path to where my contracts are lying. And it also needs the location where I want to process the contract factory. So once we have done this, into the types. We have not done that yet. So we use the build to generate, and how it look like is something which building this ABI that's generated there, which you can essentially had shown you. Now, how do I start interacting with this particular function? Probably I'm interested in understanding how do I call, or how do I connect a wallet and then use the funds in that wallet to things. So what I've done is I've created a simple example where you just connect a wallet and start it. So the UI looks pretty simple. Let me do a quick refresh of the page. Let me just start it again because I've already connected the wallet. Okay, so essentially it's a simple application where I have a button where I can increment the counter and I can basically just do that, nothing fancy. So how do I go about is the basic need. One is we essentially start with having the fuel provider. This is a simple example. I have a provider as you will NFT that use the connectors, wallet connectors, because you would want to support as many wallets as possible. And then I have added a query client, which basically wraps up your entire application and all the time. So I'm basically using the connectors from my Fuel connectors, gives me all of the functionalities in terms of different wallets that I connect to. Let me close. Okay. Let's look at what we have done for the app.tsx file. Now I want to first start with having certain existing hooks that are available within Fuel's React, which is the connect UI, a hook will check whether my wallet is connected. So just after the event, I'll pass on the link. For contracts, I can share the link. It's still there. It's still public, the contract. The front end link I'll share like probably later today or early tomorrow. And for people asking, will the front end be also covered? Yes. The reason why I'm walking you through these steps is because I will not be covering these steps when I talk about NFT front end, and I don't want you to be overwhelmed with all the information dump, and because NFT has a lot of components. So I'll start from where I left off. We were actually discussing, I hope my screen is visible now.
Still loading, give it a second. Yes, it is.
Okay, perfect. So we were actually discussing about connecting a wallet and then using that wallet to then do a bunch of other things. I was talking about these existing hooks that are available within Fuel's React that help us interact with wallets and then check their balance and make sure that they're connected. So we don't have to write custom implementations for that. There are three variables: contract holds the instance, counter holds the value, and connect is basically to make sure whether my wallet is connected or not. Then wallet is the instance that I'm simply utilizing the existing hook from here. Then let's come to this use effect, which is essentially where all of the elements that we are interacting with happen. Now, let me go back to the application and show you what I was referring to. So when you first come to the website or just the local version, you'll get the connect option and you can choose from any of these wallets. So Fuel and Fuelet wallet, Barco Save, Solana, Burner wallet, there's support for all of these and you can pretty much interact with any of them. And you can choose any one of your choice. And when I need to interact with the function of my choice, I have to basically check two things: whether the wallet instance exists, whether it is connected or not, because I'm looking to display an initial count where you saw that it was currently 0, because that's what we default at. In order for me to create a contract instance, I'm going to utilize my counter contract factory to create an instance. And then connect is a standard operation where we pass in the deployment contract ID and my wallet instance to create that instance. And then I'm doing an async call to basically get the current count from my contract. Get count function is basically nothing but a read operation happening on my storage object. And then I'm going to call set contract to set my counter contract as the object that holds it, and then basically call the function. Now comes the aspect of incrementing the value. Incrementing the value is where we are going to set something on chain instead of just reading the value from the chain. So the first thing I want to ensure when I do this is, because it's a button click and we want to trigger it only when we press that button. So I first check whether the contract exists or not, because there are you want to ensure that the contract is loaded correctly, and then there are no issues with wallet connection. So that is essentially what I'm doing here. And then in a try catch block, I am checking, basically I'm calling contract. Any function that you want to reference within your contract, you can use it using contract.functions, the name of the function, and then you call it. Once you have updated, you get the count and update the value within that button if there's an error that's simply logged in it. And what exactly is happening here is essentially how that information is rendered on my front end. So let's quickly see this as well. So if I have my wallet connected and everything is fine, then basically I show the entire UI where you have the button to increment the number. So increment counter is the button that you exactly see. Let me go back to the, so where we were. So increment counter currently is sitting at 0. So the moment I want to increment it, I also want to show the updated balance. So what is happening on button click is on increment pressed is being called, which is this function. And this firstly increments the value, then gets me the updated value using the read operation, and that is displayed. And that's simple. I mean, that's all we wanted to do. So there are 3 important concepts when it comes to working with Sway and creating a front end, is to make sure that you have your wallet in place, or most of you would be familiar with the concept of having a provider with which you make a connection to the chain and use that provider to do transactions on chain. So we do have a similar concept of providers here in the terms of connectors, which is present under Fuel's connector. Then you have a dedicated wallet SDK that helps you use those connectors. Creating an object of a particular contract is simple. You can simply refer to the ABI instance that was generated, and you can call the functions of the contract using this counter contract. So there's a counter contract, basically that's the name. So there's a factory version of it that helps you generate new instances. And then there's a contract version, which includes all of the implementations and its specific types that can help you call it. So if you look at how I'm creating the object, it's using the factory object. And when I'm creating a call to my function, it's actually using the counter contract object. Now that was more about a simple example, but obviously in real life, the examples that you're going to work with are going to be more complex and are going to have multiple elements that you'll have to work with. So coming back to this aspect, as you saw in the beginning, that there's a specific onboarding flow that you saw here. The person can use a temporary wallet, or you can have a sign-in wallet, like a custom wallet. So this is how a Fuel wallet looks like. Nothing fancy about it. So let's see the welcome screen. Then we'll look at how to create an NFT. Then we'll look at the minting aspects. And then towards the end, we'll look at the screen, which just renders all of the NFT cards. Now, to give you a little bit of a background, this is, this example has been revisited multiple times. So you will see that it's structured really well. There are hooks that have been written. All of the common functionality has been brought into the common section, including the welcome screen. But if you're starting with the first version, you can obviously have everything present under one single structure, and then you can optimize it later. So you don't have to always stick to the structure I'm talking about. You can always start simple and then go on to create it in a format where you can reuse its element. Where I want to start with is the welcome page. Within my welcome page, I'm going to skip all of these imports. Most of them are what we were using in our previous example as well. All of these help me interact with my wallet. These are just simple elements that I'm using to display. And then this is where the welcome, like the welcome onboarding flow starts. Now I've created the connect UI and connect burner hooks. Basically, I want them for different wallets that I'm supporting. Then I also have created, I'm using use wallet to manage my wallet interactions, make sure has the wallet been connected? Is it still loading? Is the transaction pending where we require a signature? So all of these things you can manage here. So every state change of your connecting wallet, including loading, signing, everything can be managed using use wallet. Since in this example, we are looking at understanding whether you have enough balance to mint an NFT, to create an NFT. So we also have the use balance hook. You can see that it's imported from my Fuel's React module itself. Has bunch of functions which can help you just get the balance, make sure everything is connected. Is connected is similar to what we were using as before. Now, what is important for me to understand is that there are three different scenarios that can happen here. Or rather, you should say, the idea is that my hook triggers based on the changes to the connection status, the wallet balance, and the loading states. So what I've done is that if the wallet is connected and has a positive balance, which is greater than 0, I will move to the success step. So you should be able to see this screen if you have connected your wallet and have more than 0 balance. If you do not have, like if your balance is 0 and the browser is Safari, you are actually redirected to the Fuel Faucet page for test tokens, which is both accessible within your wallet, outside of it. And if it's not Safari, the component faucet setup is built in basically within the website, so you can get the tokens. So essentially, if I disconnect this wallet and connect another wallet like Fuel Wallet, let me connect the Fuelet wallet rather. Taking a couple minutes. Let's come back to this, but let me just walk you through the flow. So the first thing I'm checking is, was I able to successfully connect the wallet and that my wallet instance is not undefined? Once I've checked that, the next thing I want to check is whether the balance is greater than 0 or not. If the balance is greater than 0, then I want to go and move them to the next step. So I mark the current step as success. Otherwise, if the balance is still loading, I want to redirect them to my faucet URL so that they can enter their address and just get all of the necessary, like just load their wallet. And I'm basically pre-filling their address to the address that I'm redirecting them to. The other thing is, if it's, I mean, this is basically to handle edge cases for Safari. You can go even simpler than this. And this is the aspect where I'm essentially just rendering the UI, where I have a temporary wallet, or I have a connect UI button, which gives me the option to connect with any of these. I think it's still not connecting, but like all of these wallets, you can just use the connect UI component from Fuel's React and choose any of the wallets to work with. But what happens after this? I want to start creating an NFT of my own. Let me refresh the page. Within the NFT aspect, I have 4 different inputs. So I definitely need some sort of a form where I can input these. I also need to upload my data to IPFS. So for this example and this implementation, Pinata is used. You can use any solution of your choice. And when I'm creating the NFT, you would have also seen that there were certain messages that were coming here, whether the data is being uploaded or the NFT is being created. And then once it's created, you get a success message. So how is that handled? So creating a card is pretty straightforward, but let's understand the process of uploading the file and also updating the metadata within our contract on-chain. So let me go back to that. So there are 2 things. Let me first show you the UI aspect of it, and then I'll show you the contract aspect of it. So within my create file, there are certain custom hooks that I've implemented that are being utilized here. One is the use upload file functionality, which takes care of uploading the image file to IPFS. And then these are all of the components in terms of either it's a UI component or some sort of interactive element that I'm utilizing. Use active wallet is also another hook. So let's first look at the use active wallet because it's used across the entire application. So the job of this is to basically make sure that anything with respect to my current wallets, its connection status, its balance, whether I have access to interact with the wallet is there or not. So I've packaged that together into one particular hook. And then there is a use upload file, which will come to a little while later. So here I've basically used the states. One is for file because we have a particular file. So initially it will be undefined, and then set file will be used to update. It's like always reset it once I've minted an NFT. There is a name, symbol, and description that we saw in the contract. So there's I need these state variables, and then is connected to make sure whether my wallet is connected or not. So it's coming from the custom hook. Now, this is where, you know that NFT creation is an asynchronous operation. That means that I might start minting an NFT and the upload step is taking a little longer, and I refresh and start minting another one. So we are using this hook from the act query to check if there are any mutations. That means if there's already an NFT creation that is there in progress. And if you see here, there's an NFT query keys that I've also defined. These are basically set of keys that I've created for managing NFT related queries. So there's a create NFT, checking for total supply. So it's only from the perspective of React query. And then there is an upload file object that I've created because I'm utilizing this custom hook to handle my file object. Now, if you look at here, this NFT button is currently disabled because I don't have a file, I don't have a name, I can't mint anything empty. So let me choose a simple image, probably a meme. And then even if I enter the name, I can't. I need a symbol to at least be able to mint the NFT. You can obviously have an optional description. So how are we handling that aspect? So the first thing I am checking for button disabled is for the presence of name, symbol, and upload file status. If it's pending, I don't want to go ahead and do it. And if there's already an NFT that is currently being created, I also don't want to create another one until that operation is completed. I'm basically ensuring it's only enabled when I want it to. Now, when the create NFT button is clicked, what is happening is I am doing three things. I'm updating my name, symbol, description. I'm also uploading this file, which I have received from the user, and then initiate the NFT creation process. So let's look at that aspect. This is just the UI aspect of it, where we have created the placeholders to get the necessary data. Now this is where it gets interesting. Now this is the ternary operator, if you look at here, from here to here, that we have used. Now if I have received a file and the file is correct, it's not an empty file because we started with an undefined variable. Now, once that is done and I've created the NFT, on the click of creation NFT, my set file will be defaulted to undefined so that my next operation can happen. In case, and you also see that there's an NFT image URL that I'm using. This is to display the image that I have. In case the file that I've received is not following the conditions that I wanted, if you see here the recommended size and the type supported, then I'll actually leave set file as is. I'm not going to change it or update it. So this is where the aspect of file uploading is handled. We'll go in detail and look at what is happening within the uploading process. But essentially, this is the aspect where I'm just updating my state. I'm setting the name, I'm setting the symbol, and I'm setting the description. And I'm firstly checking if my button is disabled. If that is all right, I go ahead and on the click of this create NFT button, what I'm essentially doing is I'm calling my upload file function, sending all of the necessary details. And if the upload file is pending, I'm basically using that information to display the message that what is happening right now. So I'm saying that it's uploading to an IPFS. If the upload to IPFS is completed, I'm checking if it has reached the creating NFT aspect, which is this variable that we had defined. It's a mutation, so we will know the async state of the variable. And then Once it's created the NFT, I'm just updating the message. So let us just quickly look at this. What is happening? So it's uploading to IPFS right now. That means my file upload is pending. Now it's creating the NFT, and now the NFT is successfully created. So we need to take a step back and understand what exactly happened when I was trying to upload the file. So let's go here. There are, if you see here, there are a bunch of constants that are being uploaded. So since I'm utilizing Pinata, there is the JWT token and the gateway URL that are important for me to make the call. And these are the params which I had passed from my TypeScript file at this particular stage. So this call is where I am actually calling that function. So let's look at what this function essentially does. Now within my mutation, which I have defined, I need to have the file to upload, the CID of that file. I also need to have all of the necessary metadata. This is definitely optional. I mean, if you have any other things with respect to rarity or any attributes with respect to NFT, sorry, that you also want to have on top of what's already there, you can basically use this form data object to append everything that you want to post to Pinata. So I'm basically making a post call with the JWT token that I would have fetched from my admin dashboard and sending it across. What I'm receiving from Pinata is nothing but a hash of the file that I had uploaded. And once the response is a success, then I'm going to use this CID that I had received to basically make the call, to create NFT call. And this is what gives me a confirmation here that an NFT was created. So I'm actually waiting for this on success async call to succeed. I'll just take a quick check if there are any questions until now. Okay. Since there are no questions, let's continue. Now we have created an NFT. Now, when I want to mint an NFT, if you look back to the contract, let me quickly go back to the contract here. You saw that my mint function has a couple of arguments. So I need who is minting the NFT, the identity, or I mean, for simplicity, let's understand this is address, but identity is a type in Sway. This is a sub ID, which is a unique identifier of the asset that is being minted, because since everything is a native asset, you need to understand what's the sub asset being minted. And then amount, which is obviously going to be 1. So let's understand the minting logic. I won't be going through all of these hooks because it will take more than the amount of time we have today, but this will definitely be available for you after this particular session for you to go through, and then you can come back with questions. Now, when you're minting an NFT, the first thing that you need to check again here is to make sure that your wallet is connected and that you have access to all of the NFTs that are available for you to mint, right? So skipping through the parts which are obvious, we have our wallet, we have our query client, and we have our update metadata, which we basically need to make sure that to indicate it's minted. This is where we are getting all the details which we need with respect to our NFT, which is the name, description, sub ID, CID for referencing its hash. Now, the first thing I'm checking is that if my wallet is not connected, I don't want to proceed further. I don't want to let the person do anything. The second thing that I need is the contract instance, because I need to call the mint function of my contract. And then recipient is basically the address, which is my wallet, which is connected, to which the NFT is going to be minted. So I'm converting it to the format which is acceptable, or basically making sure that whatever my function has, it is what I'm passing from here as well. What I'm doing is I'm taking my contract instant, referencing all its functions, and then calling the mint functionality. Recipient is my address. The sub ID is what you see here. And then 1 is the standard because we only want 1 NFT we mentioned, and then we do a call and we return the results. Result is what is stored here. Once my minting functionality is success, I'm going to update this metadata where I'm going to say that the minter is this particular address. Say I created an NFT, but a different wallet is updating it. So that is what I'm updating within this update metadata. There is a standard that we had utilized for updating the metadata. And I'll go into details of what happens here, because if you look here, I'm simply making a call to a function that's already implemented, and I just have an instance of it that I'm calling. But what happened in the background is what we'll just look at. And this is where I'm just making sure that the key which I've created for querying the React query is updated. And the message that we just saw over here, that the NFT is successfully minted, is what I'm putting up in a toast message. And that's how simple the mint was. Now, if you look at it, there are a bunch of things that are happening here. Why? Because obviously it has been structured in a way. But if you're just starting out and you've just created a contract and you just want to make sure that your calls are working fine, start with making sure that you're able to connect the wallet, fetch all of the details of that particular wallet, and are able to sign or like do operations using that wallet. And the next thing that you should be able to check for is that you're able to make calls to the functions that are defined within your contract. So creating an instance and making sure that you're able to reference all the functions and make a call to that function are essentially two most important things that you would require when you're implementing any application. Now, apart from this, you create an NFT, you mint an NFT, you also need to be able to display an NFT, right? If I go back to the previous link, you see all of these NFTs, right? This is what we just minted, just created. So we'll quickly look at how are these rendered over here. I mean, just looking at the collection, which is the Explore page where we are currently at. So if you see here, Explore has the root defined as NFT. I'm not going to go into details of the React aspects of it in terms of how to define roots. That's a little out of scope for today's workshop, but you can reach out with questions if you are stuck at any point. But let's look at the collection screen really quick. So essentially, the NFT grid that you are looking at over here is rendered. I mean, there's a screen that we've built that renders all of that data. And for doing that, we have a custom hook, which is use get NFT data. An NFT grid is a component which defines the way in which you would see these NFTs over here. All we're trying to do here is use the wallet, the active wallet that is currently present here, because this screen will redirect you to actually go to the minting step. In terms of the NFT data, I am essentially getting only the name, the image, nothing apart from that. And that's all you see over here. So let's go and look at the use get NFT data. So you can always structure your UI components versus your functionality into two structures. All your functionalities where you're interacting with, say, the chain, or you're interacting with certain on-chain element, you can create custom hooks for it so that it's easier for you to make those calls within your individual screens, or you could say different pages that you are rendering, instead of having all your code within one particular file. It still does the job, it just makes it more easy to add more functionality to it. So when it comes to querying the data, we obviously need the IPFS hash to fetch my image. I also need all of the metadata that is associated with it. So I'm pretty much just fetching everything. And then I am querying my NFT data. It's essentially a get call first on my pinata to get my image. This is what is happening over here. The response is okay. All of the related metadata for pinata is being fetched over here, including image, name, symbol. The entire metadata object that I had passed to IPFS is what I'm fetching over here and returning the array object within my rendering screen, which was the collection screen over here. Apart from that, there are a couple other things which are important to understand in terms of what Fuel's SDK supports. So let me go back to the connectors aspect of the Fuel's SDK. If you are just starting out with Fuel and you probably don't have a lot of context on how to get started, you can look at simple examples in the TypeScript SDK section 1, where you can first start with connecting a local node, which is localhost, and then using that wallet to essentially do a bunch of things like checking the balance, transferring some token, and doing the updates. So you're more familiar. So this is more around using a provider to do it, the standard way of things. But in applications which are more production grade, we would obviously want to rely on the existing Fuel connectors that we have built, which handles all of the edge cases in case a connection is broken, there are multiple reloads, or there's a network delay that is happening. So all of those things are taken care in terms of Fuel's connector, but you can always start with using a provider object and using that along with the wallet to make a connection to the chain. But what I'm interested in showing you is essentially use connect. There are these React hooks which help you interact with wallet and also interact with their current state or understand what is happening with the wallet in general. So you can refer to this page. What I want to focus on right now is the use balance, which we have seen being implemented here. So you can just pass the address. And for example, you're working with a DeFi application where you want to display the current balance of a particular token that is held by me in my current account. So you can just pass the asset ID of the SRC20 tokens that are available and my address for the wallet you want to fetch the balance. And that's as simple as that. And then use connect is what we have used quite a lot across the entire example, is to make sure whether my wallet is connected or not. And then you can use send transaction. I mentioned that in case of Fuel, the assets, everything is a native asset, whether it's SRC20, whether it's NFT, or it's some sort of another derivative of an EIP. You do not need to implement transfer, approve, and transfer calls. You saw it in the contract that there are no transfer calls that are present. So you can actually make those transfer calls directly using the SDK helper functions and send those transactions. And depending upon whether you are doing a transfer call or if you are doing like an approve and transfer, there are different implementations available for you. If you are doing a very simple transfer of a particular native currency, like if you're doing, let's say, ETH on the Sepolia testnet, you can simply just do a create transfer. Destination here is the address that you want to send to, and then there's an amount that you want to send to, and you can simply just send the transaction. You can also do it async instead of doing it this way. And apart from that, there is one more thing that I want to show. I mentioned in the beginning that there is a query keys.ts that we've used. This is basically to just, so I'm using it, one, for creation of my NFT. Second, I'm using it for the NFT data fetching that I'm doing. Apart from that, most of the things are extensions of what you already see. What I've covered is essentially the crux that will help you interact and understand how to call a function, how to pass an argument to the function, how should you typecast the addresses to the right format when you're calling the function. And this is just the necessary paths that are present here from the roots. I'll use these 10 minutes to take up any questions, because I know this was a lot of information dump that was there in one single hour. So feel free to put it in the chat, any questions that you have, and we can answer. We have ample time to take up questions. And these questions can be anything. If you are not clear about what to use, how to use, I can point you to the right resources within this call as well. So feel free to use this time for any questions that you have.
Reminder, you can all use the chat section on the bottom right side, as well as the questions button as well, which will help us to identify what you have in mind and help you out with responses. For those of you that are interested, a recording will be made available tomorrow. Well, as always, all of the workshops are being recorded, and we'll try to make these recordings made available to you in roughly 24 hours, ideally less than that. All the recordings will be published within the Hacker Pack and will be posted within Discord as well. So in case you have any questions, feel free to share.
Given there are no questions, either I was too good at explaining everything, or it was a little too much information for 1 hour for everyone.
It was a nice again, a nice launch, and something that again is all recorded. So even if it was a bit too much for everyone
definitely.
to follow, having another glance at it tomorrow or in a couple of days once everything's settled in should probably help out with digesting all of that new information. Also, maybe Laisha can share a bit of details on for people that want to reach out to in case they have any questions. But as always, as I mentioned, in case anybody is having technical issues or difficulties or questions, make sure to post them on our Discord, and we will try and do our best to connect you with representatives from the Fuel team.
Right. I mean, just to reiterate, we'll be available over Discord. So feel free to drop your queries async and we'll have a look and share resources. Would highly suggest that if you are working with Fuel for the first time, go through the guides that have been created so that you can get familiar with the stack, the commands, and also the structure of the SDKs that are available. So those are simpler examples that you can probably do in the 15-20 minutes and get a hang of how the ecosystem operates, and then you can start modifying them with the use cases of your choice.
For those of you that are asking, we will have another workshop, which is going to be on airdrop tokens with Sway, which is going to be in 2 days. It will be, again, same time, 5 p.m. Central European time. We will make sure to post a few announcements again, just you don't forget. And yeah, hope you enjoyed today's workshop. Thanks a lot, Laisha, for the great workshops. Really insightful, a lot of details, and I hope everyone enjoyed it as well. And if you have any questions that pop up afterwards, even after watching the recording, for those of you that are doing so at the moment, make sure to place these questions in Discord, and we'll be sure to reach out. Thank you all. Wishing you a great day. Thank you, Laisha, for the last time for coming in. And yeah, see you again. Have a great day.
Thank you, and all the best, everyone. Happy building.
Happy building, everybody. See you.
Bye-bye.